Hey boys, it's HarmNone. Today we're going to be counting down my personal top 5 muscle cars in Grand Theft Auto Online. How these cars are getting ranked are based on how cool they are, how fast they are around a track, and just generally how much customization they actually have. So anyway guys, let's hop right into the list, starting off with number 5. Alright guys, at number 5 we have the Bravado Buffalo S. This is Franklin's car from the campaign, and the reason this is at number 5 is because I think that this thing has some actual awesome customization that you can do to it. There's a lot of things you can change with the front bumper, with the hood, with the side skirts obviously, the roof, the spoiler, the rear bumper. Pretty much you can do it all to this car. Really, I just think it's deserving of being on this list. A lot of the reason this car is on this list is because it is the most modern iteration of a Dodge Charger that we have in Grand Theft Auto Online. I was really hoping that with the Tuners DLC, Rockstar was actually going to add a Buffalo Hellfire to the game to match up with the Gauntlet Hellfire. Unfortunately, we did not get that, but still, the Buffalo S I do feel like is a solid car to make up for that lack of not having the Buffalo Hellfire. I think this thing definitely makes up for it. Now, obviously, the Dodge Charger Hellcat in real life is a very, very iconic car, especially for the 2010s, obviously. It's been out since 2015, and I just wish that Rockstar would actually add one into Grand Theft Auto Online, you know, with Buffalo Hellfire or something like that. I think that would be really cool to see. With that being said, this car's performance is honestly pretty good, considering that it came out with the game all the way back in 2013. This thing definitely won't be keeping up with some of the newer muscle cars, that's for sure. There's always going to be ones that are going to be faster than this thing. But for what it is, for the price of it, which is relatively cheap, I do think that it is a very, very good car for especially newer players to pick up, but obviously some veteran players will still like this too. I think it's overall a really good car, and I definitely think you should add it to your garage if you don't have it in already. Anyway guys, let's move right into number 4. Alright guys, at number 4 we have the Vapid Dominator GTX. Now I'm a super huge fan of Mustangs in real life. They're definitely probably one of my favorite muscle cars, I would say. This thing is based off of a 2015 Plus or an S550 Mustang. I'm really happy that Rockstar added this thing into the game, and it would be higher on the list, but if you guys know my channel and you've seen some of my top 5 videos, you know why I don't like this car. And that is because this car has engine resistance. Now, engine resistance makes any car that has it very slow when it comes to accelerating, and generally they all have a pretty low top speed, which is very unfortunate because I do think that the Dominator GTX potentially would be in the top 2 on this list if it didn't have engine resistance, but I can't get around the fact that this thing is very slow. Don't get me wrong, it's still a great car, looks great, sounds great, performs decently well despite it actually having engine resistance, but just because it's got engine resistance, I just can't put it any higher on this list as much as I would like to. Now, the Dominator GTX is actually one of the better handling Mustangs or Dominators in Grand Theft Auto Online. It's pretty hard to get this thing to spin out, and I would kind of wonder if some of that is due to engine resistance being a factor, but the car is very, very challenging to actually spin out, which I do enjoy about it a lot. I just wish that it was a little bit faster in general. With that being said, even with engine resistance, this car is definitely not too slow, and it will actually get you a pretty decent time on a muscle car race if the circuit is twisty enough. Really, I don't have any complaints about how this thing actually drives. I think it's a fantastic car, and I definitely think you guys should pick one up if you've got a bunch of extra money laying around, which I know chances are you probably don't because the Tuners DLC just came out. But the Vapid Dominator GTX is a very solid pickup, especially if you like Mustangs, obviously. Anyway guys, I think that's pretty much it for the Dominator GTX. Let's move right into number 3. Alright guys, next up we have the Gauntlet Classic. Now the Gauntlet Classic is an absolutely fantastic car in Grand Theft Auto Online. It's definitely one of the better older muscle cars that are in the game. Honestly, I think this thing, just looks wise, is a fantastic vehicle. I don't think you can go wrong with this thing, and I think you can make this thing look as cool as you possibly want. Obviously mine is done in yellow and black, which is, you know, pretty classic, but you can go pretty insane with this thing and actually make it very, very unique. It actually has a absolute ton of customization options, and I would highly recommend checking this thing out if you guys haven't before. It's a super underrated vehicle in my opinion. Now the Gauntlet Classic is ranked ahead of the Dominator GTX because obviously it doesn't have engine resistance. It's actually a faster car than the Dominator GTX in a straight line. Not that that's really much of a surprise. Around a circuit, the Dominator GTX will probably actually destroy this thing. The Gauntlet Classic actually makes a really, really good sound out of the exhaust. It's definitely pretty unique. There's other cars that have this sound as well, but Rockstar definitely could have used a more basic sound for this thing and it still would have got the point across. However, it does sound really, really good. Now, the one downfall that this car does have is the handling. Obviously, it's an older muscle car. It's probably not going to handle the greatest. With that being said, it could handle a lot worse. It actually handles decently well, surprisingly. It's almost hard to get it to spin out on some corners. The back end does actually tend to stay pretty planted, but the Dominator GTX and cars like that will definitely handle a lot better than this thing. Off the line, this thing as well has absolutely zero traction, so it does take a while to get going. But if you can look past that, it's a fantastic car, that's for sure. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much all I've got to say about number 3. Let's move right into number 2. Alright guys, next up at number 2, we have the Gauntlet Classic's much younger brother, the Gauntlet Hellfire. Now the Gauntlet Hellfire is a fantastic car in Grand Theft Auto Online, potentially even my favorite muscle car in the game as of right now. That spot is going to be taken by the new Dominator ASP as soon as it comes out, but for right now, this thing is definitely my favorite muscle car in Grand Theft Auto Online. Obviously, I've got mine done in yellow and black, the same as I have my Gauntlet Classic done. Overall, the Hellfire is just a really good car. It's a lot of fun to drive. It doesn't handle very well, but it's a muscle car at the end of the day, so you know it's not really supposed to do that you know, all too well. But I tell you, this thing is a lot of fun when you're out on the streets in Grand Theft Auto Online. You can get this thing to fishtail pretty much all the time. It's hilarious. You can get it to drift, do pretty much anything you want except for turn a corner properly and not drift. Now I know I said at the start of the video that this list was based on how well a car can go around a track, and lap times were, you know, a part of the thing, but I also said that how cool a car is also part of the thing. And I do think that the new SRT Hellcat wide bodies are pretty cool in real life. So I gotta give this thing props for sure. It definitely is deserving of spot number 2 on my list. And if you don't agree with me, that's okay. I respect your opinion, but for me, this thing is definitely number 2. This thing can kind of hold its own in a race in Grand Theft Auto Online, but it will get beat out on the twisty sections of circuits, that's for sure. In a straight line, it is very quick, but there definitely are some cars that will beat it around a track, that's for sure, like the Vapid Click and the Dominator GTT that just got released with the tuners update. If you guys have any extra money laying around, I would definitely recommend picking up a Gauntlet Hellfire. I do think that this thing is just an absolute riot, especially if you just want to have some fun. If you're going to car meets, stuff like that, the Gauntlet Hellfire is definitely a car that I would highly recommend you picking up. If you want to win races though and look good doing it, the car at number 1 is definitely going to be the car for you. So with that being said guys, let's get right into number 1. Alright boys, and at number 1 we have the Vapid Dominator GTT that just got added with the Tuners DLC that just came out in Grand Theft Auto Online. This thing is by far the fastest muscle car around a track in Grand Theft Auto Online. It's also a very good looking car, especially if you are a fan of older Mustangs, particularly the 1969 Mustang, which is what it is heavily based off of. This thing handles well, it looks great, it's got great liveries that you can put on it. Really just no complaints about this car whatsoever. It is absolutely fantastic. I wouldn't say it's the best muscle car for gripping up off the line, but it is pretty darn good. Now, on top of that, the acceleration on this car is absolutely fantastic. Obviously, with newer cars, the performance gets better all the time because Rockstar wants us to buy the new cars, and, you know, who doesn't want to buy the new cars? Let's be honest, we all want the new cars anyways. But the Dominator GTT handles incredibly well. As you guys can see, this car doesn't seem to have any problems spinning out on corners, even when I'm accelerating fully into the corner. The back end on this car is so solid, it's very hard to actually get it to spin out on you and get out of control. The car is extremely easy to control in general. And I even said in one of my previous videos where I was talking about the Dominator GTT, it almost feels like this thing is actually all-wheel drive because it handles so well. Its turning speed is really good, its turn-in is really good. Really just no complaints about this car whatsoever. And not only all that, but the brakes on this thing are absolutely fantastic. I would almost say that they are the best brakes on a muscle car in the entire game. The Dominator GTT absolutely, in my opinion, deserves the number 1 spot on this list because it is the fastest car around a track in the muscle cars category in the entire game. Not only that, but it gets the fastest time while looking as good as it does. This is a fantastic car, guys. If you want to win muscle car races in Grand Theft Auto Online, the Dominator GTT is the car that you absolutely need to buy, at least for right now. Obviously, if some new cars come out, it may not be the one anymore, but for right now, this is definitely the best muscle car in the entire game as far as lap times and racing goes. You absolutely must pick up a Vapid Dominator GTT if you want to win. Anyway, guys, I think that's pretty much it for this thing. So guys, there you have it. That is the top 5 muscle cars in Grand Theft Auto Online, at least in my opinion. based off of lap times and just how cool they are. Obviously, there's going to be some cars that you guys think that I have missed in this list. Let me know in the comments down below what cars you would like to see in part 2 of this series if I do make a part 2. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. A like is always appreciated. If you didn't enjoy the video, dislike by all means. Subscribe if you guys are new, and I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, take care. Peace.